From the early morning of February 24, 2022, one of Russia's most formidable military formations advanced from Belarusian territory, initiating a major offensive directed along the Chernihiv provinces. The operational objectives were clear and sequenced: to rapidly seize the city of Chernihiv, establish a secure logistical corridor along the Desna River, and subsequently encircle the Ukrainian capital Kyiv from the northeast. In this strategic calculus, Chernihiv was not a peripheral objective, but a critical linchpin. The success of the entire northern pincer movement against Kyiv was predicated on the swift subjugation of this city, making it a primary, non-negotiable target for the advancing forces. Its capture was considered essential for maintaining the momentum and logistical integrity of the campaign. The strategic value of Chernihiv cannot be overstated. As a major administrative center, it possessed critical infrastructure, most notably the bridges spanning the Desna River. These bridges, along with the extensive road network they served, represented the most direct and efficient land routes to Kyiv from the north. Control of Chernihiv would have granted the Russian forces a significant tactical advantage, allowing them to deploy long-range artillery systems capable of targeting the approaches to the capital. Furthermore, securing the city and its transportation hubs would have protected vital supply lines, reducing the dependency on smaller, more vulnerable secondary roads that were highly susceptible to ambushes. Conversely, the failure to capture Chernihiv would expose the entire northern flank of the Kyiv offensive, forcing advancing units to operate with an insecure and contested rear. In the initial days of the operation, from February 24th to February 27th, Russian mechanized columns closed in on Chernihiv, precipitating fierce and sustained combat in the city's suburbs. The initial assaults, however, were met with determined resistance and ultimately halted. The Ukrainian defensive strategy did not center on holding the outer perimeter at any cost. Instead, the defenders leveraged the urban terrain, the natural barriers of surrounding rivers, and the existing topography to their advantage. Key bridges and road sections were systematically destroyed, a deliberate tactic designed to channel slow and disrupt the mobility of the attacking armored formations. Consequently, the Russian forces were unable to penetrate Chernihiv's defenses with the speed their operational plan required, and the initial attempt at a rapid capture failed. Faced with the inability to seize Chernihiv through a direct assault, the Russian command shifted its strategy to one of siege. This new phase of the operation aimed to isolate and subdue the city through sustained, indirect pressure. The city's electricity and water supplies were severed, plunging it into a state of severe deprivation. A relentless and indiscriminate campaign of artillery bombardment and aerial strikes commenced, targeting infrastructure and residential areas alike for weeks. This continuous shelling was designed to break the will of the defenders and the civilian population. However, the encirclement was never fully complete. Ukrainian forces managed to maintain small, precarious supply lines into the city, allowing for the limited replenishment of munitions, food, and medical supplies. Though besieged, Chernihiv was not entirely cut off, and its garrison maintained its combat effectiveness. The city became a symbol of defiance, besieged, but not subdued. While the siege of Chernihiv intensified, the logistical underpinnings of the wider Russian offensive toward Kyiv began to show signs of severe strain. Massive convoys, stretching for kilometers, became a common sight on the roads leading from Belarus. These long exposed supply lines became prime targets for Ukrainian ambushes and raids. The constant threat to their logistical chain forced the Russian command to divert a significant number of combat units from the Pripyat frontline advance to secure their own rear areas and protect the vulnerable convoys. The failure to secure Chernihiv and its robust transportation network exacerbated this logistical crisis, compelling a dispersal of forces that had been intended for the main thrust toward Kyiv. This diversion of resources and attention diluted the combat power available for the capital offensive and, critically, eroded the element of Tima, crucial factor in the initial plan for a swift, decisive operation. The siege inflicted immense hardship upon the civilian population of Chernihiv. The city endured severe shortages of food, water, and medicine, compounded by prolonged power outages that left its inhabitants in darkness and cold. The humanitarian situation deteriorated daily under the weight of the constant bombardment. Despite these extreme conditions, the city's local administrative structures did not collapse. The resolve of the populace and the defending forces did not crumble. Chernihiv did not surrender. From a psychological warfare perspective, the city's continued resistance represented a significant setback for the Russian campaign. The failure to break the city's will demonstrated the limits of a strategy based on coercion and attrition. And it provided a powerful narrative of resilience that resonated far beyond the city's besieged limits. By late March 2022, the strategic situation across the entire northern front had shifted decisively. The Russian offensive against Kyiv had stalled, bogged down by logistical failures, stiff resistance, and overstretched lines of communication. The Russian high command made the decision to withdraw its forces from the Kyiv axis, signaling the collapse of the northern campaign. As the northern flanks began a general retreat, the pressure on Chernihiv finally eased. On April 4, 2022, the last of the Russian forces withdrew from the city's environs, and the siege officially ended. The city, though heavily damaged, had survived. The forces that had sought to capture it had been defeated, not in a single decisive battle, but through a protracted struggle of attrition and will. In the final analysis, Chernihiv's victory was not defined by a grand counteroffensive or the complete annihilation of the opposing forces on the battlefield. Its triumph was one of endurance. By refusing to collapse, by not surrendering, and by denying the attacking forces the use of its strategic position as a springboard for the advance on Kyiv, Chernihiv effectively broke a critical axis of the Russian offensive. The city's defense disrupted the enemy's operational timeline, bled its logistical capacity, and tied down significant combat power that was desperately needed elsewhere. In the context of modern warfare, where strategic objectives are often tied to the control of key urban centers, some cities achieve victory simply by surviving. Chernihiv stands as a stark testament to this reality.